Hi guys, thank you for clicking on this video. Today I want to talk about the top 10 lies from the debate brought to you by Joe Biden. The debate was hosted by CNN. Here's Jake Tapper with his first question.
President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%.
Jake says typical home prices have gone up 30%. But what's typical? We don't know. Jake didn't say. I can tell you that the average home price today is $419,300. That is the highest ever since we began tracking this stuff back in 1999. You know what that $420,000 house cost under Trump? Just $270,000. That is a 55% increase under Joe Biden. And that only tells half the story because mortgage rates have gone up too. When Trump left office, mortgage rates were just 2.65%, an historic low. Do you know what they are today under Joe? 7%. Meaning your monthly payment for that house under Trump was just $870. Under Joe Biden, the same house cost you $2,220. Let's go to the debate and see lie number one.
What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president and what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible.
The economy collapsed and unemployment was at 15% when Joe took over. You heard that, right? Just in case that was a mistake, Joe says it again later on.
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy.
Well, that's lie number one. Unemployment was not at 15% when Joe took office. It was just 6.4%. In fact, when Trump took office from Obama in 2017, unemployment was 4.7%. Trump got it all the way down to 3.5% just before COVID. Today, unemployment is at 4%, meaning under Biden, unemployment is actually higher than pre-COVID levels under Trump. Let's go back to the debate and listen to Joe have the nerve to lie about our military. This would be lie number two.
You know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
Joe looked right at the American people and had the nerve to say he is the only president who hasn't lost any troops this decade. I guess you forgot about the 3 service members we lost in Jordan, huh, Joe? Just 6 months ago? I guess you also forgot about the watch incident, huh, Joe? When you botched the Afghanistan withdrawal and we lost 13 of our military members? Here's a small tribute I made for those heroes. I usually put it out on Memorial Day. The Democrats like to honor George Floyd for Memorial Day. I rather honor real heroes.
Thank you, George Floyd, for sacrificing your life for justice.
That video shows Joe checking his watch just once, but according to the Gold Star families who were there, he did it throughout the entire service. Here's a father of one of those Marines addressing Congress.
Well, I stood there on the tarmac watching you check your watch over and over again. All I wanted to do was shout out, "It's 2:30, asshole." But out of respect to the other grieving families, I bit my tongue once again. Well, as you could probably tell by now, I'm done biting my tongue. You, sir, stole their lives, their futures, their dreams, and have ripped apart 13 families. You cannot even man up and admit that.
He won't only not admit that, but Joe goes out of his way to tell the American people the exact opposite of what is true, that no troops died under his watch. Let's go to lie number 3.
What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period.
A couple of things about this lie, Joe. Number one, billionaires do not pay an average tax rate of just 8%. According to the IRS, they're paying an average tax rate of 23%. The only way you can get down to that 8% figure is if you assume the IRS will tax unrealized gains, meaning they're taxing stock that hasn't even been sold. Even the IRS doesn't do that. So this is just a made-up scenario that will never happen in the real world. But Joe uses this figure to manipulate and lie to prove a stupid point. Number 2, you mentioned that taxing these billionaires would raise $500 billion. And I agree that is a ton of money, but I know I heard that figure before. Where have I heard $500 billion?
Here's what you need to understand. So far, in the 3 years Biden's been in office, 3 years and a couple of weeks, the United States government has spent $451 billion on migrants in 3 years. And that doesn't count the state and local expenditures. So they've got to be another 50 billion. So that takes us up to $500 billion, at least, on migrants, on foreign nationals coming here. We have to pay those taxes. We, the working people of America. $500 billion in 3 years. That's insane. Nobody does that. No country on earth comes close to that.
It's easy for you to scream about the $500 billion that the billionaires aren't paying in tax, but gee, Joe, you're awfully quiet about the $500 billion you've already spent on illegal aliens. Plus, the $500 billion you're talking about would take 10 years to raise. You said it was $500 billion spread over a 10-year period. But the $500 billion you've already spent on illegals occurred in just 3.5 years. And by the way, Joe, if we're really going to talk about people paying their fair share of taxes, shouldn't we start with your son, Hunter?
Hunter Biden, the president's son, now accused of a criminal scheme of tax fraud. A new indictment charging Biden with failing to pay his taxes on time and instead spending millions of dollars on an extravagant lifestyle. A federal jury in Los Angeles indicting Hunter Biden on 9 counts, including 3 felonies. Biden earned millions in income between 2016 and 2020. But the defendant spent this money on drugs, escorts, and girlfriends, luxury hotels and rental properties, exotic cars, clothing, and other items of a personal nature. In short, everything but his taxes.
Let's go back to the debate for lie number 4.
7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state.
I have absolutely no idea what this guy's talking about. He said Roe v. Wade has 3 trimesters. The first trimester is between a woman and her doctor. The second is between a doctor and an extreme situation. And the third is between a woman and the state. I have no idea what any of that means. We know one thing's for sure. Joe supports Roe v. Wade, even though he might not know what it is.
The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
You know who didn't support Roe v. Wade? Senator Joseph Biden. Shortly after the Supreme Court legalized abortion in 1973, Joe told the Washingtonian magazine, quote, "I don't like the Supreme Court decision on abortion. I think it went too far. I don't think that a woman has the sole right to say what should happen to her body." I don't think a woman has the right to say what should happen to her body? Really, Joe? If you read the rest of that paragraph, you'll see that Joe is against legalizing marijuana, but fully supported the draft. This guy changes his mind every day, depending on which way the wind is blowing. This issue didn't come up again until 1982, when the Republicans introduced a Senate Resolution Bill number 110 to overturn Roe v. Wade. It was supported by all of the Republicans, but only one Democrat. Do you know who that Democrat was? It was you, Joe. But just like your thoughts on the draft and legalizing marijuana, you change your mind so you could stay in power. Let's go back to the debate.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
Trump was talking about Virginia Governor Ralph Northam, but before we get to his statements, let me show you the legislation they're referring to. It involves House Bill 2491, which allows abortion up until the moment of birth. Here is the bill's sponsor, House Democrat Kathy Tran. Here she is being questioned by Republicans.
So how late in the 3rd trimester would you be able to do that?
You know, it's very unfortunate that our physicians, witnesses, were not able to attend today to speak specifically.
No, I'm talking about your bill. How late in the 3rd trimester could a physician perform an abortion if he indicated it would impair the mental health of the woman?
Or physical health.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking about the mental health.
So, I mean, through the 3rd trimester. The 3rd trimester goes all the way up to 40 weeks.
Okay, but to the end of the 3rd trimester.
Yep, I don't think we have a limit in the bill.
So, where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth, she has physical signs that she is about to give a birth, would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would make.
I understand that. I'm asking
point.
if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
The mother is dilating, meaning her cervix is opening and the baby is about to come out. According to this bill, supported by all of the Democrats, that baby at that point can still be killed. That's the bill Trump was talking about. Now watch the governor, Ralph Northam, explain what would happen if the baby had been delivered, meaning the woman goes in for an abortion, but because she's so close to her delivery date, the baby is actually born. Watch this Democrat governor explain what would happen in a situation like this.
So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother.
And that discussion will be whether or not that child is allowed to live. Remember, the governor said the baby would be resuscitated only if the mother so desires. And if she decides she doesn't want her child to live, they will let the baby die. Is that not evil? To stand there and watch this child die without rendering any aid? This has nothing to do with the woman's health. This has nothing to do with the woman's body. In this case, the baby has already been delivered and is sitting there on the table. The Democrats want the right to allow that baby to die. When Trump said we'll put the baby down and then we'll decide what we're going to do with it, he was right. Listen to Joe's response. In it, you're going to hear line number 4.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period, period.
The Democrats are not for late-term abortion. Period, period, period. Watch this small montage I made proving this lie.
Do you think that women should have the right to have an abortion all the way up to 9 months?
I believe an abortion is a medical decision.
And are there any limits on abortion you would find appropriate?
I don't believe so, no. My question was about any limits to abortion at any point. You know, late term, anything?
Look, you got to leave it up to the woman.
If it's not 15 weeks, is it 24 weeks? Where do you draw the line where you say, okay, abortion's after this point in time? No, it's a no-go.
Abortion is a personal decision between a woman and her family and her doctor.
What is the line on abortion for you?
I've always come down on the side of a woman's right to take care of her own health care.
Is there any limit? Is there any limit that you believe there should be? What is it?
Wait. Again, you've got to have the debate.
Could you name one abortion restriction that you might support?
I have tried to make sure that I am abiding by the law.
Is there just one restriction as relates to abortion that you might support?
Senator, you're talking to the spouse of a OBGYN who for decades has practiced saving lives.
And you didn't answer the question about even one restriction on abortion.
Do you support any restrictions on abortion?
I don't. I've always believed...
Even in the third trimester? Do you think there should be any limitation on abortions?
No, I do not.
Do you believe that a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy up until the moment of birth?
Look, I think that happens very, very rarely, but at the end of the day, I believe that the decision over abortion belongs to a woman and a physician.
Up till now, my understanding is there wasn't a limit on when in a pregnancy a woman could receive an abortion. Have you set any limit on
There
that?
are no limits.
Does the president have a clear belief in what he thinks the restrictions should be on, or if there should be any restrictions on abortion? You've been asked this before, but I just want to get a clear answer.
The president's view is that women should be able to make choices about their own health care. I'm not going to detail it further beyond what he said in the past from here.
Restrictions?
I'm not going to detail his opinion. He's spoken to this a number of times.
So that was line number 4. The Democrats are indeed for late-term abortion, which is why they all support the Women's Health Protection Act, which guarantees the right to abort the baby up until the moment of birth. Let's go to line number 5.
President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed me.
This is an easy one, Joe. I don't know why you would say this. Immediately after you said it, the Border Patrol tweeted, "To be clear, we never have and never will endorse Biden." Notice the time of that tweet, Joe, 9:33 p.m. They didn't even wait until the debate was over. They exposed your lie immediately. Now let's go back to the debate.
In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages.
Putting kids in cages. I agree with you, Joe. We finally found something we agree on. I think that's a terrible thing to do. When I see photos like this, being a parent, this angers me. But look closely at the date, Joe. This photo was taken in June of 2014, when you and Obama were running the country. Were you outraged then? Are you going to blame Barry? Before you do that, look at these photos, Joe. These were taken during your current administration. So is it bad to keep children like this, or is it only bad to keep children like this when Trump does it? Let's go back to the debate. We're up to line number 6. It's about the border.
We had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you,
caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person coming in his administration, killed three American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
No, Joe, Trump's not lying. You are. According to Breitbart News and several other news agencies, the Border Patrol received an intelligence report from the Department of Homeland Security, warning them that the Venezuelan government is releasing murderers and rapists and sending them to our border. Congress has reached out to your DHS secretary asking for more information, and of course, he refuses to respond. Let's go back to the debate where we're going to hear lie number 7.
We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines.
Joe got this from an article in the Atlantic magazine. But before we talk about that article, let's talk about the cemetery in question. The Anne-Marne Cemetery is an American cemetery in France where American soldiers, mostly Marines, are buried. The battle occurred in June of 1918 in nearby Belleau Wood, where we lost 2,300 soldiers and more than 1,100 went missing in action. It is Trump's visit to this cemetery that the article talks about. Now let's go to the article. When Trump canceled his visit to the cemetery, he blamed it on bad weather, but according to the article, that wasn't true. The magazine cites 4 anonymous sources which state that it had nothing to do with the weather and Trump didn't want to visit that cemetery simply because he didn't want to visit a bunch of suckers and losers. Well, according to the United States Marine Corps, the weather was indeed the reason why it was canceled. Here's the email. Team, we are a bad weather call for today's lift. There it is, in black and white. They could not fly because of the weather. And Trump doesn't even make this call. The United States Marine Corps does. So when Trump calls this article fake news, he's right. Now let's go to the suckers and losers comment. According to the magazine, which cites 4 anonymous sources, Trump says he has 19 people who were also present who have gone on the record to state that he never made that comment. 19 separate people. Do you know who one of them were? John Bolton. Keep in mind, Bolton hates President Trump. He badmouthed Trump every chance he had. After Trump finally fired him, Bolton wrote a book and attacked Trump again. But regarding this particular issue, this is what Bolton wrote in his book. The weather was bad. Marine One's crew was saying that bad visibility can make it imprudent to chop it to the cemetery. Therefore, it was a straightforward decision to cancel. Not a word about the suckers and losers comment. Why? Why would a man who hates his boss for firing him, a man who wrote an entire book bashing President Trump, why would he not mention that Trump referred to these Marines as suckers and losers? Because it didn't happen. It's just another one of Joe's lies that he continues to push throughout the campaign. Now let's go back to the debate and we'll see lie number 8.
What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him, they said, what do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides. What American president would ever say, Nazis coming out of fields, carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas, were fine people?
Joe likes to use this one a lot. Here's what happened. There was a protest in Charlottesville, Virginia, regarding the removal of Confederate statue Robert E. Lee. Some people were for the removal, some people were against it. When Trump is talking about very fine people, he's talking about people within each of those groups who were there to protest peacefully. Listen to President Trump specify exactly who he's talking about.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Trump is clearly talking about these people, those who were there to peacefully protest the removal of that statue. You see that sign, Let Lee Stand? He's referring to the statue of Robert E. Lee that they did not want to be removed. The problem was, each side was hijacked. The far right infiltrated the group that wanted the statue to remain, and the far left infiltrated the group that wanted the statue removed. Unfortunately, it turned violent, and a woman was killed. When Trump was referring to them as fine people, he was referring to those people who were there originally to protest peacefully before it turned violent. In fact, before Trump made that comment, he specifically stated, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists. Here's what the media never shows you.
And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
Got it? Now listen to him specifically state he's talking about those other than the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists.
But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too.
Trump is clearly making a distinction between those who are there to protest peacefully and those who are there to commit violence. This is clear as day. But Joe and the corrupt Democrats love to lie about this issue. Joe has taken one line about a particular group of people and applying it to the whole incident when it is clear that Trump was not condoning violence. In fact, Trump held another press conference to condemn the attack a second time.
To anyone who acted criminally in this weekend's racist violence, you will be held fully accountable. Justice will be delivered. As I said on Saturday, we condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans.
So even though Trump condemned the attack again, Joe continues to push this fake narrative. And this isn't the first time. Joe actually used this in his 2020 campaign ad.
And that's when we heard the words of the President of the United States that stunned the world and shocked the conscience of this nation. He said there were, quote, some very fine people on both sides. Very fine people on both sides?
Joe also mentioned it in the 2020 debate and on the campaign trail.
And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president has ever said anything like that. He said there were very fine people in both groups. They're chanting anti-Semitic slogans, carrying flags.
Again, these are the people Trump was referring to. He wasn't talking about these people, Joe. He wasn't talking about those who were there to commit violence. But this is all a lie, and Joe knows it. Joe can claim he supports the removal of Confederate statue Robert E. Lee, but does he mention that he voted to restore his citizenship? And while Joe claims to despise the people who display the Confederate flag and is outraged that Trump referred to them as very fine people, do you know that Joe referred to them in the exact same way? Have you ever heard of the United Daughters of the Confederacy? They had been granted a design patent on their Confederate flag every year it came up for renewal since 1894. But in 1993, their renewal was denied. And this seemed to really upset Joe.
Senator Carol Moseley Braun not granting a federal charter to a organization made up of many fine people who continue to display the Confederate flag as a symbol.
I guess it's only a problem when Trump says it. Let's go back to the debate. We're going to hear lie number 9. It's about January 6th.
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill.
What do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically.
And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on.
Joe's lying again. There was an effort on Trump's part to stop it, but first, let's go back to January 6th and let's hear what Trump actually said.
We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
As far as Trump saying and doing nothing to stop it, here's a statement Trump gave from the White House asking for peace.
You have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel. But go home and go home in peace.
The 10th and final lie we have is about Social Security.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing will do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare.
Trump is the one who wants to cut Social Security. You heard that, right? Here's a short I made proving this lie.
Democrats are going to protect Social Security and Medicare. Republicans have been very clear. They've stated boldly that they want to cut Social Security and Medicare. You've been paying the Social Security your whole life. You earned it. Now these guys want to take it away. Who in the hell do they think they are?
Senator, we have a deficit. We have Social Security and Medicare looming. Would you consider looking at those programs? Age of eligibility, absolutely. Cost of living, put it all on the table?
The answer is absolutely, you have to. When I argued that we should freeze federal spending, I meant Social Security as well. I meant Medicare and Medicaid. I meant veterans benefits. I meant every single solitary thing in the government. And I not only tried it once, I tried it twice, I tried it a third time, and I tried it a fourth time.
Paul Ryan was correct. When he did the tax code, what's the first thing he decided we had to go after? Social Security and Medicare. We need to do something about Social Security and Medicare.
There you are, Joe, on the Senate floor, bragging that you tried to cut Social Security 4 separate times. And you have the nerve to claim that Trump and the Republicans want to cut it? If you ever want to know what the Democrats are doing or thinking, just listen to what they accuse others of doing and then realize it's the exact opposite. The Border Patrol endorsed me. No, Joe, they endorsed Trump. I had no troops die under my watch. No, Joe, You had 16 die under your watch. Trump wants to cut Social Security. No, Joe. You're the one that wants to cut it. Trump is the threat to democracy. No, Joe, you are. You're the one putting your political opponents in jail. It's almost like a truth serum. If you ever want to know what they're doing or what they're thinking, just listen to them and realize it is the exact opposite of what they're telling you. As a final example, I give you Nancy Pelosi.
And by the way, while the press, and for some reason they don't, there are healthcare professionals who think that Trump has dementia, that his connection, his thoughts do not go together. Not only that he just lies, he doesn't even know the truth.
Trump has dementia? I can give you 100 clips of Joe losing his mind, but I'll just give you one from the debate.
We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
COVID, Joe. The word you're looking for is COVID. We finally beat COVID, not Medicare. And Trump is the one that has a problem putting words together. Trump has dementia. I don't know how anyone can support the Democrat Party when they lie so easily. Everything they say is a lie. It's not just a lie, it is the complete opposite of what is true. The best has to be Trump is a racist. I'm going to put a link up to a video I made exposing Joe's racist past. You're going to be shocked. Please click on it. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Thank you for watching and staying to the end. I know this video ran long. There were more lies that I didn't have time to put in. Joe said that he capped insulin at $15 a shot. No, Joe, it's $35. You said that you capped Medicare expenses at $200. No, Joe, it's actually $2,000. And the best has to be that there were less border crossings under Joe than there were under Trump, which is obviously a joke. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please do me a favor, give me a thumbs up, share it, comment. I read all the comments, and please consider subscribing. Thank you again, and I hope to see you on the next one.
Look, Trump is a pathological liar.